Oh, we're live.
There, we are live.
Hey, everybody. Dr. Kelsey here.
And it's Catherine Marie.
And that other guy there in Chelsea, Alabama, complaining about the rain is Kevin Kane.
It ain't raining right now.
Oh,
Sun's out.
we got it. Look at the wet. Look how wet it is. It is soaking right now. Y'all are complaining. Look at this water. Okay, we got lightning over here somewhere behind us. It's a good evening for scary stories, and I think Kevin's going to talk about some haunted doll stuff again.
Yes,
And
I am.
then we've got next on the agenda is those strange phone calls from the other side. Voice
Yeah.
messages, voicemail. Have you ever gotten anything like that, Kevin?
I've not gotten it personally, no.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can cure that. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. It's lightning over here. Let's see if you can
Uh-oh.
get it in the camera out over the
Uh-oh.
Atlantic Ocean. So this platform, this is an awesome thing that we're able to utilize because we're standing down here between St. Augustine and Daytona Beach, Florida. Fortunately, spring break ended, and it's kind of like a ghost town down here right now. As you see, there's hardly anybody on the beach, and the ghost town fits our theme, right?
Yeah.
So Kevin's going to get us started with his wonderful. Who are you talking to tonight? Was that what you were showing a while
I,
ago?
yeah, I don't have a name for her. She's one I picked up at the Chelsea antique
Well,
market.
maybe we can figure out her name, huh?
Yeah, I want to see what comes through because I
Did we
have
figure out
not.
the name of the last one you were trying to figure out?
I don't think. Well, yeah, that. Well, no, last week we had a name for that one before we did
Okay.
the.
As a week or two
So,
ago. Oh, by the way, we've got a heck of a lineup for next week at my house for the seance.
oh boy,
Huh?
a lineup.
People, we're not going to be alone.
We're talking about living people or dead people.
Combination, we've got Al Capone, we've got Abe Lincoln,
Oh,
whoever you guys want to try to call up from the other side. But we do have Ashley, who is one of the employees at the castle, Sterling Castle. She's going to join us. And you're going to be there.
yeah, I'm gonna be there.
And Kevin's going to be, yeah. So we're going to live stream a 2-hour seance next Tuesday night, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
And Kevin's going to bring the pizza.
I'm gonna bring pizza. That's the first I've heard of that.
Oh, I thought you said you wanted to eat.
Hey, you said you was going. You coaxed me over with the promise of
See,
Italian food.
I can really talk crap now because I'm all the way in a different state. He ain't going to come down here and beat me up.
Ah, you're gonna beat me up.
All
You
right,
just don't know.
I'm gonna let Kevin go ahead and get started with his haunted doll here.
Yeah.
So again, hello from the south midsection of Florida. We're not going to Disney or Universal, none of that. We did check into prices and got sticker shock. I could buy 2 new cars for what they want just to spend a day at Disney World. So
Yeah.
decided we'd rather have this kind of fun. But anyway, short little visit. We'll be home tomorrow night, probably just a one nighter. And Kevin,
One
y'all pay
night.
attention to his spirit box because he's trying to figure out some history and the name of this doll tonight.
Yes, I am.
So
All
how do I
right.
take myself off of here?
Well, here
How
I
do I
take you.
remove myself?
There you go. I got you off there now. All righty. I'm gonna go ahead and start this. And I was gonna use a different camera, but it messed up the sound. Because this camera, I mean, it's okay for talking on, but it seems like the lighting in here just messes with the quality. You see it kind of pixelating over here. It looks like light flashing. That's just pixelating because this camera just, it ain't like they advertised it. But anyway, it's an okay camera. So I got the REM pod. I will say the other camera was not only did it mess with our sound, but it was setting off my REM pod. So I guess now I can use my REM pod. And we're going to do the S box tonight. And I also have the cat ball sitting in the doll's lap. There it goes. See, that's how it looks lit up. And we got this beautiful pale doll here that I found at Chelsea Antique Market here, close to where I live. And there's not any story with her. She just really stuck out to me. They had her behind the counter, and the lady did me a real cheap deal. She kept coming down on the price, so I'd take it. So that makes me wonder. But all right, so let's go ahead and start a S box here. All right. All right. Hello to whoever may be with this doll. Well, something said I need it. Whoever might be with this doll, my name is Kevin, but you probably already know that. Okay, I just saw, I don't know if that showed up on camera, but I saw some kind of light flash right there in her hair just now. Let's go back and look at that. It might have been me hallucinating, but we shall see. She's a very pretty doll. I'm not sure how old she is, but I'm thinking early 70s. Somebody told me it's an early 70s type doll. She's got wooden legs and wooden arms and a cloth body and wooden head. Actually, there's porcelain up here. So is there a spirit or anybody with this doll? Whoa, that was loud. It said all of them. So exactly how many spirits are with this doll? Tell me your name.
I just want
I've got a toy there in your doll's lap. It's called a cat ball. If you tap it, it'll start lighting up. So if you could, please make it light up for us. We also have this device here called a REM pod. It's got this metal stick here. If you touch that, his eyes light up. So if you could, please touch that metal stick there and make his eyes light up. Is there a name for this doll? Miss Tollins? Is that what you said? Who is Miss Tollins? I want to say hello to Omar. He came in early tonight. Look at this. Omar is early. Hello, Omar. And he says, hello there just in time. And he says, have fun, Dr. Kelsey. All right, so let's What is your name? When I asked if there's a spirit with this doll, you said all of them. A guy? Is there a guy spirit with this doll?
I'll say for them.
I thought I felt a girl spirit earlier too. Is there a girl with this doll? Did this doll belong to you at one time or another? Perhaps while you were alive? I sure wish you'd tap that ball in your doll's lap. Make it light up.
Big eyes.
Any flavor.
Or just tap this device over here and make its eyes light up. Make it look all funny. Well, speak to me. What would you like to say to us? I think I heard the SHIT word. Well, you can do better than that. You can do better than that. Tell us something. Tell us about yourself. Okay, that sounds like a woman saying you don't have to call. Who do I not have to call? A sign? This is pretty weird since we're going to be talking about ghost calls tonight. Oh, I heard the IRS. Oh, we don't want to talk to the IRS, do we? I'd rather talk to a spirit. Or me. Is that what you said? Did this doll belong to someone you love? Well, who was that special someone you loved? Did this doll belong to that person?
Go to Georgia.
Georgia?
If you didn't,
Is that where you're from? Are you from Georgia? If it's okay to ask, how old are you? You got a cool doll. I like her wooden hands and her wooden legs. Those little wooden shoes that are painted on. And I think that's real human hair on the doll. Did you make this doll?
Act right now. That's on.com. Calm now.
Sound like you want to call somebody. Who did you want to call? I see Tracy out there in the comments said angel hair. And by the way, hello, Tracy. We see you out there. There she is. And that does look like angel hair. So we got a few minutes left. Looks like Omar had a question there I missed about the. He said I have two haunted dolls who were sent to me from a friend in the U.S. The spirit, who's my dog, can't understand Spanish. It's possible. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works on the other side. If they can understand any language, I would think they could understand whatever language they want to, though. That's my guess. Oh, and Tracy says, "How pretty you are." I'd still love to hear a name for this doll. I don't think I've heard that through the spirit box yet.
Slash.
This is an S box, in case anybody's wondering. You can find these on eBay, Amazon, ghostshop.com. So Tracy says she came from grandmother. Get you? Oh, somebody said, "We'll get you" on the spirit box. Who are you going to get? Is your name Susie Q? So you said you're from Georgia. I heard Georgia in the spirit box. Are you originally Southern? No. Where are you from originally?
The secret.
Did someone in your family, was it a grandmother that gave you this doll? Whoa, that was loud. What was your grandmother's name?
Is to
Dinner delivered.
I've heard a kind of an older female voice come through a couple of times here. What is your grandmother's name?
enjoy my
Kevin?
time.
Enjoyed your time? Well, I've enjoyed my time talking to you. We have just a couple of minutes left. Is there anything you want to say? You say it loud and clear next to this little box in my hand here. This one that's got the numbers flashing on it.
An advisor. Ceramic or mask. Top 5 story. One night only.
I think Tracy said the name Virginia up in her comments. So is your name Virginia?
Advise any. They did up again. Magic. Grandfather's is
Did I hear you say grandfather? Well, speaking of call, this is last call. If you want to say something, we got just another minute for the spirit box. Anything you'd like to say?
faith comes to life.
It'd be nice if you lit up one of these items here, but I know it takes a lot of energy. You can use electricity on these devices. All right. Well, I appreciate you talking to me. I've heard of several responses here that were loud and clear. But I'm going to go ahead and turn the spirit box off so we can talk about some ghost stuff. So if there are any spirits that don't belong, be sure to go back to where you came from. And any spirits here, please back away. I'm going to turn this device off and I need you to back away. And I'm going to shut the door here. I'm going to count down from 5 and I'll turn it off. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Good night. Goodbye. There we go. Now then. There we go. So I see a big old face sticking up. Ah! What is that?
We went from the nice solitude beach as the sun went down, and now we're in a very noisy little restaurant. I'm hungry. She isn't hungry, but I'm a starving
You're
Marvin.
a starving Marvin.
Marvin. So it's noisy here. I gotta ask you though. It sounded like you had a lot of activity on that dog.
I guess so.
Did you learn anything
Well,
of
we had Tracy on here made some comments. I think she said the name Virginia up here.
So you
And
think the
then,
dog's name is Virginia?
I guess so. That's what Tracy was picking up.
Well, Tracy would be the one to know.
And then she said it's late for her. She needs sleep.
Well,
And sweet dreams.
I'm going to sign up long enough to eat and whatnot. It's very noisy. I can barely hear you. I don't know if you hear me okay or not.
I hear you perfectly. I see you got to stick your ear up there, and
But you see that this is a very busy little place
yes,
here. And
there's a lot of folks there.
a lot of people chowing down on seafood. So
Seafood, eat food.
I'm on a seafood diet. The only time I eat when I see food. So here we go. So anyway,
All right.
welcome everybody and greetings from the big state of Florida on the Atlantic coast, the East Coast, where we're enjoying. And here is our great server at this restaurant. Say hi to everybody on the internet.
Hello.
So we got good service and good food and happy times. We'll be joining you again before the show is over. How's that?
Okay, then.
All right, Kevin. Talk to you in a little bit.
All right. Okay. All righty. I'm back full screen now. I'm going to go ahead and share some stories then because we were planning on talking about phone calls from ghosts. In fact, when I was a kid, I read a book one time and I got the cover here called Phone Call from a Ghost. There it is by Daniel Cohen. That's an interesting book, kind of written for young adults, but adults can enjoy it as well. And I think the story in that book is about the phone call from a ghost is derived from a real incident here that I'm about to share. Of course, I got to pull my information up here on my bookmarks. So there's a place called Grande Colonial in San Diego, I believe. And this is about the things that go bump in the night in La Jolla. Grande Colonial La Jolla, if I'm pronouncing that right. Or maybe it's Yola. Jola or Yola. It's 2 a.m. The only sounds are the waves crashing down at the cove. The phone rings at the front desk. The staff sees the room number. It's happening again. The call is from a room that they know is empty. A ghost. Is the Grand Colonial Hotel in La Jolla haunted? Yes, no, maybe. It's been a common rumor around La Jolla for generations. The guests and staff have reported encounters with ghosts in the hallways, stairwells, guest rooms, and kitchen, but no one can know for sure. While there's never been an untimely death or a heartsick lover left alone gazing out to sea, waiting for someone who never returns, the hotel certainly has had more than its share of unexplainable, perhaps spooky events. The good news is that all the paranormal sightings have one thing in common. They're always about people having fun. But you be the judge. There's a room in this hotel that is particularly private with a secluded entry. It's been popular with actors appearing in local plays or with people who seek simple privacy and rest. None of the staff can comprehend the reason there are phone calls coming from the room when it's unoccupied. The calls always come late at night, but invariably no one is on the other end. A hotel employee is always sent to check the room, but they have never found a guest there, and the phone has always been off the hook. An employee claims he once saw a figure hiding behind a curtain, but when he got up the nerve to investigate, the curtain fell flat. The window was closed and locked. Could it be the spirit of one Groucho Marx returning for a visit? You all know who Groucho Marx is, a famous comedian actor from early 1900s. I think he did some silent pictures, 1930s, some sound pictures as well. As a regular guest when he was alive, he would stay up late while staying at the hotel, whether he was working or just having a getaway. He would stay up late and convince the night staff there to play along with him. He loved to do gags. Groucho Marx was known for his gags. That's why he was such an accomplished comedy actor. And he would have the staff play along with him when he wanted to be mischievous. So sometimes he would often prank call other rooms and disguise his voice and kind of mess with people. And they would call the front desk. The front desk would deny knowing anything. And sometimes Groucho would prank call the front desk, but they, of course, knew where the call was coming from and they enjoyed a nice laugh. So, fast forward to today and these phone calls that come from the empty guest room where Groucho Marx once stayed. Could it be him carrying on his tradition of phone call gags? As long as this strange phenomenon, there's our favorite word again, phenomenon, takes place only when the room is empty, management is happy to accommodate whoever or whatever it is, especially if it is the ghost of their late friend, Groucho Marx. Not all the mysteries are of the unseen in this hotel. Some involve reported sightings. Late one night, a couple dressed in formal attire were seen in a hallway. The man was wearing a tuxedo, top hat, white scarf, and a cane, and the lady was wearing a cream-colored gown. According to a staff member who offered assistance, they turned a corner and just disappeared. There were no unlocked doors, no windows, no way out. 1 minute they were there, and the next they were gone. Perhaps it's this ghost that has been, or these ghosts that have been making those creepy phone calls from the empty hotel room. Another night, a guest reported seeing a soft, glowing presence in her room. It was a young woman with brown hair wearing a light lace dress. The guest thought the apparition's name was Abigail, although we don't know how she came up with that. Many stories collected over the years involve the kitchen of this hotel. Stoves are mysteriously turned on and off, cabinets open and close, and one time 2 staff members reported seeing a frying pan moving around. Reports of the paranormal were more frequent when the restaurant was being remodeled. Perhaps the ghosts could not find their favorite foods easily, but ever since the restaurant opened a few years ago, there's been more peace in the kitchen. There have also been many reports from guests and staff about rooms in the North Annex above the bakery. To this day, people claim they hear loud voices, heavy footsteps, people running down the stairs, and doors swinging open and closed for no reason, all after the bakery was closed. What is now the bakery was once 2 apartments. In one lived 2 young women, and in the other were 2 young men. Apparently, they were well known for throwing wild parties. Evidently, they enjoyed themselves very much because they are still at it today. The hotel continues to receive complaints from the guest rooms above the bakery, but the outcome is always the same. The bakery has been empty for hours and is locked up tight for the night. So who could be throwing that mystery party? Who or what lurks in the hotel's hallways and around the corners, we'll never know. There's only one way to find out. Experience the haunted hotel in San Diego La Jolla for yourself. And just know that even to this day, those ghostly calls continue from that empty room. I wonder if anybody's stayed in that room. Maybe some of those ghostly experiences have been coming from that room. I guess we'll never know. Well, right now it's just me, Kevin Kane, my haunted dolls, while Dr. Kelsey Graham and Lady Catherine are down at the beach enjoying dinner. They'll be back on later, hopefully. But I wanted to try to pull up in this conversation of ghostly phone calls and messages. There's one I want to try to pull up and share here. And hopefully we can do that without our feed getting cut off, but we'll see. Oh, there's Omar. Awesome. Yep. So they didn't think to tell me they were going. Of course, I'm going to be off work next week, and we've got fun stuff at my house coming up. So, but anyway, I'm going to run a little commercial, a little tiny commercial that Dr. Graham created a while back. See if I can find it here. And I'm going to try to pull up this video I wanted to share of a creepy message. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that little clip. I think, what was the creepy voicemail that someone posted about 12 years ago out here on YouTube. I don't think this is going to interfere with our feed to play this live for y'all. This was really creepy. And then I'm going to share some stories about some creepy calls, but I think I want to throw in some of these creepy audio recordings here and there as we go along. So I'm going to share my screen here and let y'all hear this. Let me start this beginning. I want to make sure y'all read all this. This is a creepy voicemail that I actually received on a CD in the mail from someone named John Colbert. A note came with it that read, "You are on the right trail. You may wish to get off the trail while you can. I honestly do not know what it means, and it may be fake, but I present it here in its entirety to let you decide." And there's his contact information there if anybody knows what this is.
First skipped message. This is an important message from AT&T to discuss your wireless service. Please return our call at 1-800-947-5096.
Well, AT&T, that's not strange.
You may also access your account online at www.att.com/mywireless. Again, our number is 1-800-947-5096 or 611 from your wireless phone. Thank you for using
All right,
AT&T.
come on.
End of message. To delete this message, press 7. To save it in the archives, press 9. To hear more options, press 0. Message skipped. Next message. Siri, listen to me and do exactly as I say. If you say
All right, so that was pretty dang creepy there. Some people have speculated that that was the sound of a man becoming possessed by a demon and that you actually hear the possession going on. And that's why it's warning, if I come to your house, don't answer the door. It's not me. Others say he's transforming into something. But where did this mystery CD come from? Or is it just fake? Which YouTube people post fake stuff all the time, so you can never tell what's real and what's not out there. So you have to really be careful and watch out you don't fall for some of that fake stuff out there. So now I want to share some stories in this here video about spooky calls from beyond. I have a book about phantom messages here, and I wanted to read some of these stories for you. That's what I'm going to do here. So just sit back, sit tight, and enjoy a couple of these stories here about phone calls from ghosts. Ooh. All right. Sorry, this is taking a minute, but I'm trying to get to the stories here. Okay, here's a story about an entity that screamed through a radio in Cheryl Prelinsnick, Grand Haven, Michigan, 1987. When Cheryl was 16 years old, she left her grandmother's house in a 1975 Buick Electra Limited. She was driving fast with the radio blasting heavy metal. At the end of their dirt road was a set of train tracks for freight and commercial trains. Cheryl explains, as I get closer to the tracks, I heard a man's voice screaming on the radio over the song that was playing. He was yelling, "Stop!" And it was coming right from the radio. The voice was so loud it startled me. I realized I was too close to the train tracks. The yell was in time for me to realize the impending crash. So I slammed on my brakes and the car skidded to a halt, just as a train crossed my path. I sat there in the car for a while to compose myself and stop shaking. It was not in my mind. No, this was an actual voice from the radio that I heard. So this was a car radio that this message came through, which that is absolutely possible. And that does fit right in with our stories here of messages from beyond. They can come through radio, they can come through phone calls. Some people have claimed they've gotten calls from spirits. There's that call. I believe there's a story out there, and I might find it here right quick, about a call that was received from a mausoleum, I believe, or not a mausoleum, but from a grave, I believe. And I'm not sure if I can pull it up here right quick, but there was a woman who installed a phone, or had a phone installed in the mausoleum she was going to be buried in, because she was afraid, she had a fear of being buried alive. I'm not sure where this took place, and it's probably an urban legend because the story's been around for decades. So who knows where it came from? But she had a phone installed in her grave, in her tombstone, just in case if she was ever, if she was buried alive, if she could break out of her tomb, she could call somebody for help. Well, eventually the woman did pass on and she was laid to rest in her mausoleum. Several weeks went by and her daughter received a phone call. When she checked the caller ID on her phone, it showed the call was coming from the number of the phone installed inside her mother's mausoleum. When she answered, She very shakily said, "Mother." On the other side, on the other end of the line, she heard static and some sort of light whisper, but she couldn't make out the words. She listened and she kept saying, "Mother, is that you?" But only static came in response, and suddenly the call ended. Just on a hunch, the girl decided to call the number back just to see what would happen. And when she did, she got a busy signal. Out of fear, she called the authorities and said, "We probably should go out there to check the mausoleum." She explained quickly what had happened, and she said, "It's possible somebody broke in who knew about the phone and is playing a prank on me, so I want to make sure, if nothing else, everybody's okay, or everything is okay there." So the police agree to meet her out there. They get to the mausoleum. It's locked up like it should be. No sign of break-in. I think they had to get the caretaker there with a key, somebody there with a key to unlock the mausoleum. And they went inside. The mother's casket was laying where it should be inside the cement tomb. It had not been disturbed. But yet the phone was laying off the hook, like someone had just used it. But there was no sign of a break-in and no windows inside this mausoleum. So you figure out, you decide, was that a phone call from a ghost? Ooh, okay. So, let's see. I think we have some more videos here of creepy phone messages. Not all these are just ghosts or anything. There's some things here that are strange noises and just things that were unexplainable. And it could be just some kind of prank or it could be fake, but we'll let you decide. So I'm going to share my screen here that you all see what you think here.
(6:01 a.m.) Thursday, 6:04 a.m. End of messages.
Alrighty. So let's get down to some more stories of calls from and messages from beyond. I have some stories here This is one called Mary Mary. This is from Southington, Connecticut in 1984 from a lady who also picked up, I think, something from her car radio, a strange message. In my college days, my magician friend Phil and I used to hang out in graveyards. We discussed and practiced magic and worked on great achievements, such as a way to vanish the moon. We also talked about the unknown, since we were wonder stricken by all of that, the debunking of fake practitioners like Uri Geller, along with mind boggling urban legends and experiences that were interesting yet often unverifiable. One summer night in one favorite graveyard spot, we decided to try to contact the dead. Why not? We searched to find a perfect older grave for our experiment. We found the area that had photos of the departed on each gravestone. We found one, a younger woman. Her name was Mary, and she had long black hair and wore glasses. Phil and I discussed exactly how we should go about this. It's an important discussion since we wanted the experiment to have the best chance of success. We decided to see if Mary could contact us through the car radio. We turned on the radio and turned the dial until we had thick static, with no other stations bleeding through. In order to render our makeshift experiment viable, we decided to talk while the radio continued to play thick static. We wanted to make sure only static was playing for about 20 minutes before we proceeded. After about a half hour, we started taking turns, asking if Mary would show us she was there. Nothing happened. We continued talking about magic and let the radio continue to pump out thick white noise. As a last-ditch effort, we decided to shout out to Mary at the same time. By this time, the static had played for about an hour. Phil held up his hand and put a finger out and then another as we counted out to 3. So our plea would be synchronized. On 3, we shouted, "If you're there, Mary, tell us." After the synchronized shout of us came out of our mouths, the static was completely gone. And we heard a lady's voice speak rapidly, unintelligible words for about 10 seconds, and then it went right back to static. Despite being debunkers of countless phenomena, we stood dumbfounded. It really startled us. We ran to the car and shut the radio off, and then we discussed it for some time after that. Our logical minds told us it was simply coincidence, and perhaps that's all it was. Certainly, statistically, that would appear to be the best explanation, as opposed to something beyond the natural understanding of the world. Regardless, it is a night we'll never forget, leaving an impression that made me continue to seek out the paranormal. And then we have a story from East Haven, Connecticut in 1989 about a message or phantom talking that came through a clock radio. This incident happened right around midnight after Diane's boyfriend left at about 11:45 p.m. She was 25 years old at the time and all alone in the house reading. Her parents were on vacation in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Without warning, the AM/FM clock radio on the night table beside the bed came alive on its own, turned on, and a male voice, not a happy sounding voice, yelled, "Don't move!" She looked at the radio, startled, and said, "What?" It yelled out again, "Don't move!" She didn't know how to interpret it, but Diane took comfort in knowing that she would be moving out of the house within a week or two. Shaken, she immediately left the room and called her mom in Atlantic City, telling her what just transpired. Diane explained she was completely awake, so this was not an imagined incident. Several times the radio turned on by itself, and through the static, a voice seemed to be trying to break through. Diane could not quite make out what was being said. It didn't sound like a radio station trying to come through either. When Diane moved out, she left that AM/FM clock radio with her parents. A few years after Diane's mother passed away, she had another experience. She would periodically visit her dad and straighten up the house for him. She opened all the curtains and blinds in his bedroom to let the sun in and started to make his bed. Suddenly, the radio sprang to life. A woman's voice that sounded very pleasant came through the static, and she understood it to say, "It's okay. It's okay." She was not scared this time. In fact, it made her feel quite comfortable. Diane said back, "I hear you, and I'm not afraid." All right, so let's see what other types of mystery messages we have here. Actually, we're going on the 8 o'clock hour here, so I do want to advertise for us. In fact, let me make sure we have. Let's see, we're supposed to have Dr. Graham's wish machine. Here it is. Scrolling at the bottom of the screen there. Wishing machine now on sale. www.thewhishdoctor.com. And those are machines that Dr. Graham himself builds that look kind of like this. And supposedly, if you try it out, your wish can be granted too. So visit wishdoctor.com to find out today some more information on that. And while you're at it, visit myhauntedDolls.com, and there you'll find my books out there, such as My Haunted Collection, The Dark Side. I have supernatural novels out there like Crimson, The Blood Painting, which is a true story about a haunted painting that I have from Salem, Salem, Massachusetts, the alleged home of witchcraft. And this painting actually hung in the home of a practicing witch. And it was just such a good, creepy story and a neat item in my collection that I decided to spin out this paranormal novel based on that story. And I have my new book out there, Dark Awakening and Other Tales for a Midnight Hour. These are some of my original short horror stories that I've collected. And this book is the first book I've had out that's actually in hardbound. You can get that at Amazon. Just be forewarned, it can take a few weeks to get because I guess they're slow in printing right now. But it's also in paperback and it's on Kindle if you'd rather read ebook. So be sure to check that out today. Or just go to myhauntedDolls.com and I can give you an autograph. I can send you an autographed copy if you purchase one out there. And Dr. Graham has his own books out there, mainly Dating the Dead. You can find that at datingthedead.com. I think that's his most popular book, even though he's got a few others out there, or several others, really. But Dating the Dead and Spectrophilia is the book out there to check out. All about strange dating stories out there in the paranormal world. You've got stories of someone who allegedly had a relationship with Bigfoot. There's another about a relationship with a ghost. There's one about a relationship with a freaking car. So be sure to check that out. All right. So we're in the 8 o'clock hour now, and I do want to, hopefully, as I said earlier in the show, but if you just tuned in, Dr. Graham and Lady Catherine are at the beach taking care of some things down there, and they might just come. They were on earlier this evening, and they'll hopefully come back on before the show is out. But until then, it's just me entertaining you with stories of phone calls and paranormal messages from beyond. And I want to share another video out here, a call. Here's one, a creepy voicemail from an unknown caller. So I want to share this one with you. As soon as I share my screen here.
Okay, so regardless, I made a mistake on the time frame. I got this voicemail on my phone at 10:04 a.m. and then I had a missed call from my home number at 10:10 a.m., but I never called my cell phone from my house. This is the message I had gotten.
Tuesday, 1:7 p.m. Friday, 6:40 p.m.
Hi, Deborah. It's
Saturday, 12:07 p.m. Monday, 4:08. Friday, 10:05 a.m.
See, there's some real.
Ooh-wee, that is some scary stuff there. Hooters. I tell you, they got some of the strangest things that pop up there to recommend to you when you're done watching a video. Looks like that was something for Hooters Ghost Stories. I think we'll stay away from that tonight since we might have some kids watching. But as we share these stories of phone calls and messages from different places, just want to make sure to welcome you if you have any stories of maybe a creepy phone call that you received. Be sure to share that with us. You can put it in the comments and we can talk about that. There are many stories out there of phone calls and texts and messages from beyond the grave. So if you have one, be sure to share it in the comments section and we can share that here for you if you like. So, what's next on our stories here from beyond the grave? We have, and these stories I've shared here, they've come from all over. There's been some from car radios, from clock radios, and there's been phone calls, like the few stories I shared, like the haunted hotel where allegedly the ghost of Groucho Marx still makes prank calls from his room when it's empty and nobody's there. So that's pretty cool stuff. But I want to tell some stories here that are actual phone calls. And now here's a good creepy one from Texas. The deceased borrows a cell phone. This is from Bella Reynolds Silsby in Texas, and it happened in 1984. My husband's grandfather passed away back in 1984. Grandpa Reynolds comes to visit, and every time he does, he calls my cell phone from my husband's cell phone. He hangs up, and then he calls back. This is a repeated pattern. He calls at least once a month and calls from my husband's personal cell phone and also from his work cell phone. There have been a couple of voicemails, but I can't hear anything, even with my earbuds in. My bloody house is so active with family members. Since the hurricane, I've had even more visitors. It's always a paranormal circus here. I also have a set of twins. They sit on my couch and argue about baseball. I have no idea who they are, but their names are Timmy and Tommy Thibodeau, and they wear white shrimper boots. So it sounds like this story came from someone who's actually sensitive. And let's see what's next on the creepy phone calls. Here's one about calls from an abandoned office in Bridgeport, Connecticut, back in 2010. Bob is not involved with the paranormal. After his father died, he received a call from the General Electric service shop where his dad worked for 35 years. That sounds normal, but there is a twist. The shop closed soon after his father retired. The call originated from his father's old extension 2618. The building was completely empty, and for security purposes, General Electric bolted all the exits shut and they shut off the phone and electrical service. Bob told us, "I have no idea what happened. I am content thinking that Dad might just be saying hello to his boy via these mysterious phone calls from the abandoned office." That's kind of a nice little, kind of a sad story there, but it's nice to know that his dad, even in spirit, can reach out somehow from beyond and let him know. All right, let's see. Here's one called Buried with Her Cell Phone. This is from England, from a story in Blackpool Gazette in 2008. A man from Lancashire, whose house has a reputation for poltergeist activity, claims he's being haunted by text messages from his dead wife. The Blackpool Gazette reported on March 27, 2008, in an article entitled "Man Believes Dead Wife is Contacting Him on Mobile." 12 years ago, 59-year-old Frank Jones had his home on Windsor Avenue, Thornton, exorcised after a malevolent spirit dubbed the Thing had already driven one terrified family from the house. Now it turned its attention on Frank and his wife and children. In 1971, the previous residents, the Ross family, excuse me, told the Gazette how the Thing had pulled at their bed covers while they were asleep, and they sensed a vile smell and felt something breathing in their ears. Jones moved in 20 years ago, solidly skeptical about the legendary presence, but he soon changed his mind. He says, "I just thought they were imagining it, but there was a lot of banging and an earthly smell in the house. Then one night I was lying in bed and a mist came from across the room. I wanted to shout out at it, but I could not get any words out. My face seemed to be paralyzed. It all got too much for me when that happened." Jones's 30-year-old daughter Maureen confirmed that the Thing turned on faucets and thoroughly ransacked the house. She recounts, "You think people are exaggerating until you experience it. I was home alone one evening and suddenly heard these footsteps coming up the stairs. They went into my dad's bedroom, and then I heard all the cupboards banging open. It sounded like burglars." An exorcist from Fleetwood Spiritualist Church attempted to cleanse the property of the spirit they thought was trapped between two worlds. Peace then reigned at Windsor Avenue until 5 years ago, when Jones suffered a double tragedy: the death of his son Stephen at age 32 from a brain tumor, and wife Sadie, who was 69, 3 months later from a heart attack. Jones explained, "Just after Sadie died, I came home and I felt like I did not want to go in the house. I got a missed call on my mobile, but it did not ring. The call was was from my own number, my home number, but there was no one in the house. When I went inside, There was the smell of cigarettes, which Sadie used to smoke, and the smell of her perfume. Jones says his family has since received strange SMS messages, which they believe to be from Sadie. He concluded, "She always had a mobile with her. We buried her with her phone. There have been messages with words Sadie would say, but there's never a number." Now, I think I heard somebody creep in over here. Ah!
Oh, what's that?
What's that?
Well, I just ate a burger and just paid. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna take Kevin for a ride here.
You gonna take me for a ride?
I'm gonna take you for a ride, brother.
He's gonna take me for a ride. I've been
We emptied
sharing.
out. We emptied out the restaurant.
I hope you didn't pass gas to do that.
No, that was Catherine's job. I know you've ridden in a car with her, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Look, all of you. She had a choice finger for you.
A choice finger. I didn't see that finger.
You like birds, don't you?
Butterfinger.
You like birds, don't you?
I like chicken. I like fried chicken. I like fried quail. I like quail. That's good.
Well, here we are, right here. You can play. Where's that sign? Can you see it? Miniature golf.
Miniature golf.
Miniature golf? Yeah. You like miniature golf?
Yeah, I like miniature golf.
Oh boy, I'm not good at golf. I used to play
Ooh.
golf, but I was never any good at it.
Well, I have been sharing stories of ghostly phone calls, ghostly messages through car radios, ghostly.
You have done an excellingly good job.
I've played some videos on YouTube of creepy messages because I thought you got to have that if you're going to talk about.
So, a lot of people have gotten strange stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he cut out. Dadgummit. Maybe he'll come back on in a minute. Let's see. I wish, there once was a time. Well, I see another video we can share out here and some. Oh, there he comes.
Pushing buttons here.
You're pushing buttons there.
I'm a button pusher.
Oh, he's driving. He's going to drive and talk to us at the same time.
I can multitask.
Oh, he's going to multitask.
Yeah, he's dropping. Ooh, that was a good meal, man. That was worth coming to St. Augustine just to eat that hamburger.
I bet it was.
You like hamburgers, don't you, Kevin?
Yeah, I do.
I don't like McDonald's. I'm talking about some real beef.
Oh, I know what you mean. I love good old beef, good old Angus beef burger.
Oh man, I'm like that old lady in the Wendy's commercial. Like, where's the beef?
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, I don't like it soybean burger stuff.
Nah, I've had some veggie burgers, but
well, if I want a veggie burger, I'll get a veggie burger. But don't serve me a veggie burger when I'm wanting beef.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't get to listen to all the stories. I did get the best I could pay attention to the haunted doll. And I think you said that name came up Virginia, thanks to Tracy.
Yeah, that was Tracy commenting
that. So you learned something.
Yeah, and we had Omar on early. He came on right at the beginning of the show. Usually he comes on the last 10 minutes.
Did he stay? Is he still on?
I don't know. Let's see. He commented at 7:37. He said, "Awesome." So we'll see if he's out there.
Omar. What is he? Costa Rica?
I think he said Costa. Yeah, I think he's. Oh man, we're always forgetting.
Well, come on, let's hear another story. You got 45 minutes of storytelling?
Yeah, let me see. Here's one about a man's uncle's answering machine up in Garden City Park, New York. back in 1995. It says in June of 1995, we were at dinner celebrating for my uncle, or a dinner celebration for my uncle Ivan, who passed away a few months earlier at only 58 years old. His wife Dolores, who is my aunt, and all of our children were together for the big dinner. After eating, we returned to my house. Everyone who attended the dinner came back to my house except a few of the children. The answering machine was blinking with 3 brand new messages. The first 2 were just friends of mine, but the third message gave us chills and left us speechless. It was my Uncle Ivan's voice on the answering machine singing Como Fue, which is my aunt's favorite song. We believe it was an anniversary call to her from him from beyond the grave. Oh, start spreading the news.
Little down blues.
Yeah.
It's a brand new start of it in old New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. It's up to you. Come on.
And now, let's see. We've had I shared a story about a voice on a car radio, a voice on a clock radio. We've got phone messages and phone calls, but now we've got a store intercom system. How about this?
Oh, wow.
From Cheryl Prelesnick in West Haven, Connecticut. On October 12th, 2001, when at work in West Haven, Connecticut, I was putting together posters for an upcoming open house. At around 2 p.m., a woman's voice made an announcement over the loudspeaker. Harriet Cooper, please call the operator. Harriet Cooper, please call the operator. I smiled, lifted my head, and thought to myself, that is Grandma's name. It was strange because the announcement was abnormally loud. I thought perhaps the lady just turned up the volume all the way. I did not think about the incident for the rest of the day. The next day, which was Saturday at around noon, I received a call from my mother. She was clearly upset, and I could tell she had been crying. I asked her what was wrong. Clearly shaken, she told me, your grandmother went into a coma yesterday. I'm sorry for waiting so long to tell you, but I could not call yesterday. At that moment, the announcement on the intercom from the day before flooded my thoughts. I asked Mom, do you know what time she went into the coma? Do you know the time? My mom said, oh, that's a strange question. Why do you ask? I did not answer. I could not help but repeat the question until finally she said, well, it was around 2 p.m. I sat there in shock, then told her what happened the day before. Without hesitating, I quickly said, well, I guess she called the operator. In unison, we both laughed and cried. My grandmother passed away 3 days later on October 16, 2001. Oh, looks like we lost Kelsey again. So, tell you what, I want to share some more creepy and mysterious phone calls from the dead on videos, so you're not just having to hear me talk about it. Hopefully you two won't mind this, but I do want to share. And here we go. Share my screen here.
Can ghosts call people by way of electronic devices, such as telephones and cell phones, in order to get a message to loved ones? Some say that it's possible. In this video, we count down 5 creepy phone calls that people believe have come from the dead. A paranormal investigator received a call to investigate a house. The investigator was surprised that the man on the other end of the phone could have found his number, for it was a new cell phone and the number hadn't yet been given out. Still, the investigator followed up with the phone number the man had given him during their brief conversation. Upon calling the number, the investigator found a woman at the other end of the phone. She quickly informed the investigator that the name of the man he'd asked her about was her husband, who had died a decade previously. Her husband couldn't have made the phone call to the investigator. Rattled, the investigator decided to call the number back that the man had called him from and received an earful of static, followed by an abrupt termination of the call. This happened 2 times, so the investigator then called the woman back and explained the strange story. He was astonished to find out the old static-filled phone number he had dialed was indeed the woman's and her deceased husband's old telephone number from the house he had died in when it burnt down. A terrible train wreck occurred on the 12th of September 2008 in California's San Fernando Valley. A Metrolink commuter train carrying 225 riders collided with a Union Pacific freight train. In what is now referred to as the Chatsworth crash, 135 people were injured. Of those injured, 87 people were hospitalized and 25 died. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, which investigated the cause of the collision, the Metrolink train ran through a red signal before entering a section of single track where the opposing freight train had been given the right-of-way by the train dispatcher. The National Transportation Safety Board faulted the Metrolink train's engineer for the collision, concluding that he was distracted by text messages he was sending while on duty. One of the fatalities on the Metrolink train was 49-year-old Charles Peck, a Delta Airlines customer service representative from Salt Lake City. He and his fiancée had put off marriage until Peck could relocate to the Los Angeles area where she lived. Charles died on impact, but his body was not immediately found. During those hours, Peck's mobile phone made a series of calls to his fiancée and many family members. 35 calls were made from Peck's phone to members of his family and inner circle, all of which consisted of a few minutes of silence before disconnection. As the calls continued, authorities used Peck's cell signal in order to locate his body, which they eventually did 1 hour after the last call. Peck's phone was never found. In 2008, a man from England shared a different ghost story with the media. This ghost story concerned his wife contacting him by the way of his cell phone. Not only did Frank claim to have received phone calls from the dead, but further claimed that his deceased wife and son started to appear in his home. Frank's son died from a brain tumor, and his wife died 3 months later due to a heart attack. The odd story of the ghost phone call began when Frank noticed he had a missed call on his mobile phone, but the cell phone never rang. The call came from his empty home, a place where he no longer wished to visit after his family had passed away so tragically. When he entered his home, he immediately recognized the smell of his wife's cigarettes and her perfume. Frank says she always had a cell phone with her and they even buried her with it. Not only has Frank answered strange phone calls, but he's even received text messages that he believes to be from her. In April of 2011, a YouTube user uploaded a recording of a voicemail she received. From the description, we learn that her grandfather died on December the 23rd, 2010. The voicemail was received in March, and the user claimed that her phone only rang once before the voicemail was recorded. What she heard on the voicemail was chilling. The white noise in the background is broken by the faint whisper of the word Grandpa.
Saved message. Saved message.
Author Dean Koontz was subject to a spooky phone call of his own. Koontz was in the office when the phone rang. The voice on the other line was faint and female, and it only spoke 2 words, "Be careful." Koontz asked who it was. His number was unlisted, and it was a very strange way to start a conversation. The voice did not answer, but just repeated the warning 3 more times. After he hung up the phone, Koontz reflected that the voice sounded eerily like the voice of his deceased mother. 2 days after this phone call, Koontz was visiting his father in the facility where he lived. Apparently, his father had purchased a fishing knife and sharpened the blade to become razor sharp. When Koontz entered the room, his father moved to stab him with the knife. A few onlookers saw the altercation and called the police. Koontz was able to wrestle the knife away, and stepped into the hallway just as the police arrived. The police told him to drop the knife, but Koontz tried to tell them that he wasn't the one they wanted. They asked a second time and he thought of the phone call. He realized that they were going to shoot if he didn't comply. He dropped the knife, believing that the phone call was a warning. So that was 5 mysterious phone calls from the dead. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.
All right, I thought that was pretty good. Little collection of videos there of creepy stories there. That last one, Dean Koontz, that's one of my favorite writers. I didn't know he had a ghost story of his own there of a creepy phone call. But I like that clip they played of the grandpa voice caught on. I guess that was a voicemail. All right, I've still got some of my own stories to share, but I'm just going to plug myself again since Dr. Kelsey's not here to stop me. This is the hardbound version of my book, Dark Awakening and Other Tales for a Midnight Hour. Available at myhauntedDolls.com. You can get an autographed copy, or you can go on Amazon books. Go to Amazon or Kindle. They also have of course, it's in paperback and it's in on Kindle. But if you like, it's got my little picture on the back. But these are a collection of short stories that I wrote, original short stories that are creepy, scary stories for a midnight hour. I like the picture, that creepy looking window with the light coming through. It's almost like someone is standing out there looking through and stalking. Ooh. So be sure to check that out. All right, let's see, we got a half hour left, so I'm going to share some more stories I have here of ghostly phone calls. Let's throw up creepy granny on the phone here again. All right, what have we got here? And some of these, like I've said, are not just phone calls. These are also stories of people who've gotten messages on radios, and we had that one earlier. And we have one from Gettysburg here, which again, this is another story for a clock radio. Gettysburg Ghosts Call to Play. In 2010, my husband Daniel and I were staying at Round Top Campground in Gettysburg. We waited until later in the evening when it was not busy to go take showers at the bathhouse. The women's bathroom showers have a door on the left that you enter through, and the men's room has their shower doors on the right. The laundry room is in between. Daniel and I agreed to meet in the laundry room when we were finished. As I showered, I felt as if I was being watched. But I was the only one there. When finished, I dressed and started brushing my hair at the mirror. I heard children laughing and running about in the laundry room. Being overtired, I hesitated to go into the laundry room because I just wanted quiet time. I decided to enter anyway and found the room empty. I told Daniel what I heard and felt, and that when he was finished with his shower, I wanted to return with my camera. We went back to the RV, got the camera, and returned to the laundry room. The photos looked normal, but I kept feeling the presence of a young girl. I informed her that I was not going to hurt her and asked if she wanted to play. After a few minutes of nothing happening, we returned to the RV and went to sleep. The next afternoon, I was with Daniel and speaking on the phone with my sister. Suddenly, in the middle of my sister's sentence, the line went dead. My sister's her voice was replaced by the sound of a little girl merrily laughing and giggling. I immediately knew it was an identical match of the voice I heard in the bathroom the night before. I asked, "Who is this?" trying to get her name or a response. She giggled and laughed again and then said, "Wanna play?" Daniel was sitting so close that he also clearly heard the little girl. I was perplexed. I did realize what was happening at the moment, but it took me a few minutes for it to register and for my mind to grasp that this was really taking place. The little girl's voice then said, "I invited you." Her words came slow and dragged out. It was a very eerie sound. She continued, "I'm going home." This was followed by laughing and giggling again. At once I called my sister back. She did not hear the little girl on the line. She only heard my voice the entire time. From my end, however, I could not hear my sister at all. I only heard the little girl's voice. Dang, that might be the best story I've read out here tonight from this collection of ghostly messages and calls. Here's one called From Graveyard to Facebook. Austin, White Plains, New York. We're going back to New York with this one. 2010. After investigating a house in which the stepfather allegedly killed his wife and stepdaughter, then killed himself, Sean started to feel he was being followed. He didn't know if it was negative or not. He started recording on a few different ghost box recorders to see if an EVP could provide a clue. Sean asked, "Is someone following me?" He played the recording back. A female voice claiming to be the murdered stepdaughter answered, "You freed me from my stepfather's hell. Thank you." Sean was aware this might not be the stepdaughter at all, knowing that these parasites can simply lie. Parasites mean negative entities and demonics. One day when Sean was working at his job at a wine store, a mother and her 8-year-old boy entered. The little boy said to his mother, "There's a ghost there." The mother admitted that her son sometimes says things like that. During the next few weeks, Sean and his friend Gregory explored cemeteries looking for answers by asking more insightful questions. It seemed like the spirit of the stepdaughter was responding to Sean's questions. The female voice captured on audio was recognizable, sounding exactly like she did in prior communications. She answered questions wherever he went. Even in his apartment, he did EVPs. She explained, "My father is very angry with me for what I had done." As Sean continued to gather a mounting number of recorded messages, he discovered the stepdaughter answered his questions before he verbally asked them out loud. In addition to Sean obtaining conversations with her via EVPs, something much more surreal happened. The murdered stepdaughter sent him a friend request on Facebook. It was dated 2 months before she died. Her random Facebook message simply said, "Nice eyes." He found himself actively communicating with her via daily EVP recordings. She gave advice and held normal conversations. She even told Sean where his wallet was when he lost it. Is this a strange case of contacting someone on Facebook randomly 2 months before being murdered and then connecting again from the graveyard? Did she know something about the future that we did not? Or did she know about the past and message Sean in retrospect from the future? Wow, many questions, and these are very creepy stories of messages from beyond the grave. Now, what else have we got here that I can share here? We got a little over 20 minutes left here, so let's see what else I can pull up. Looks like we've got one about a ghostly computer, some sort of computer message. Ghost computer comes to life in Woodland Hills, California, 2015. My dad's side of the family was mostly unknown to me. I was a kid growing up without a dad in the Philippines. We only had contact with my Aunt Mary and my half-brother Bruce during those times. I didn't bother to check on Dad's family until I was in my 30s. My sister did most of the ancestry work, but abandoned it when she got too busy with her business. One late night in early October of 2015, I felt a male presence mostly out of the corner of my eye. This feeling repeated a few times until later that same month when I had a sudden urge to find out more about my dad's roots. While searching online, I could still feel a presence right behind me. I came across a few names, but no further leads. Then the page I was on froze. I hit the back button. Instead of going back, the page went forward. I was stunned at what I saw loaded on the screen, names of relatives and ancestral information that went on for quite a few pages. The last page was about this pioneer in Coles County that came from Tennessee, the patriarch of the Taylor clan who served during the Battle of New Orleans. I have since visited his grave and the battlefield he fought on. I have the feeling that the presence I felt 2 years ago was my great grandpa, Michael Taylor. His youngest daughter was married to Abraham Lincoln's close cousin. Well, that's an interesting story. So we've had phone calls, we've had Facebook messages from beyond, we've had car radio and alarm clock radio messages. What else can we find in here of these strange messages from beyond the grave? Here's one called "It Came Through the Speakers." That's another Connecticut story from Linda Crouch in Hamden, Connecticut, 1985. Linda didn't live in a house that had any apparent paranormal activity until the following occurrence happened at the age of 15. Linda and her friend Jennifer got together at Linda's house to hang out after school. They started tossing out ideas of what they could do together. After different suggestions, they decided on making their own radio show. The two pretend stars decided to sing parody songs and be DJs. The process was to play albums later and then record it all back on a cassette tape recorder as one cohesive show. The cassette recorder used was the small desktop style. Linda unwrapped and inserted a new cassette tape so their project could sound its best. The disturbing phantom message came at around 3 p.m. And notice this is during daytime. The two friends sat on the floor by the foot of Linda's bed, only a few feet from the record player. It was a simple one without a radio built in, but it did have two large speakers. The record player remained unplugged since they were going to record the music later for the show. Here is Linda's account. We were doing a little introduction to our pretend radio show when our attention was interrupted by an unusual sound. Through the unplugged record player speakers came a muffled song, almost like the sound a baby's mobile would make. It was Home on the Range. I also would describe the sound like it was one of those wind-up music boxes playing it, which made it even creepier. There were no lyrics, it was just an instrumental. The music played for only 10 to 15 seconds. Then we two startled teens looked at each other. Jennifer said, Lynn? Lynn? Well, the two girls immediately ran down the stairs to her father, who was the only person home at the time. Since they were recording the show, they had it recorded on cassette tape. So they regained their composure and decided to brave a trip back upstairs to the bedroom. The tape was played back to see if the song was recorded. It was there, and they were excited. Then the recording turned stranger. A few seconds after that, you hear feet running down the stairs, and a voice followed the eerie music. Linda explains it sounded like a tortured voice saying, "Let me out." Just those 3 words, but very stretched out. It was either a woman's voice or a child's voice, and it sounded very far away. Still, the voice was clear enough for the words to be obvious. Trying to be little detectives, they checked the plug to the record player and speakers just to make sure that they were unplugged. They were. The 2 looked at each other in disbelief. Years later, Linda had another unusual experience. After she was married, the couple moved to the 2nd floor of a 3-family home that belonged in her family. Her grandmother lived on the 1st floor, and her Aunt Clara lived on the 3rd floor. Periodically, the couple would argue, and Aunt Clara was always disturbed when they did. They could hear her yelling at them from upstairs. For a wedding present, Aunt Clara bought the couple a music box with 2 swans on top. She presented it to them by telling Linda that swans mate for life. They only have one partner. If their partner dies, they have been known to die from a broken heart. Aunt Clara sadly passed away in July of 1999. But about a month later, the couple was arguing over something trivial. During the heat of their exchange, items began falling off the shelves. These items were nowhere near the edge, and it seemed unlikely for them to just fall over. The 2 looked at each other in wonder. They immediately thought that Aunt Clara was not happy. On second thought, it could just be their imaginations. The next time they had an argument, once again, items fell off the shelves. Now they knew. It had to be Aunt Clara telling them to knock it off. The final convincer was after all the items fell, and then music was heard. The swan music box with the doves started playing on its own, and they knew then it was Aunt Clara telling them to behave. That's a good little story there. We got less than 15 minutes here. Let's see what else I can cook up here about ghostly messages and creepy things like that. Here's one called Crossing Over Waycross by Phone. In 2010, Lori's brother died from cancer at the age of 67. During his final days, he stayed at their mom's home. Lori says, "I called Mom's house 2 days later to inquire about his funeral arrangements. I was using a landline phone to call Mom. I dialed her number, and there was an odd waiting period before the phone started ringing. Before that, there was a lot of static. Then, a man's voice came through. It clearly said, 'Lorianne.' The voice was clearly my brother. After he spoke, the phone connected the call and started to ring. Her mother answered that call and found a confused daughter on the line. Lori asked her if anyone was at the house that could have answered the phone before she did, but the only 2 people in the house were her mom and sister. Lori says, This has never happened to me before or since. I believe this was my brother Johnny saying his last goodbye. So that is amazing. Let's see what else we have here in the next 10 minutes we have left here or so. All right, let's see. This one sounds creepy. It's called It Came from the Top of the Stairs. In August of 1990, Lisa's brother Joey, this is a different Lisa, Lisa's brother Joey passed away at a young age. After a period of mourning, the family moved all his belongings to the upper part of an addition on the house. Joey preferred staying upstairs and often sat on the top step. After his death, the family still felt his presence at the top of the stairs in his usual spot. The family had a little dog named Baby, and Joey was the dog's favorite. Baby even had a special prance that he would do only when Joey was calling or talking to him. One day, Baby was doing his special little prance at the top of the stairs. Lisa's mom thought this might be a good opportunity to record at that spot and see if they could catch anything. Lisa says, "We pressed record and planned on listening to it later. We wanted to leave the house to be sure if we captured anything, there would be no confusion over whether we made the sounds or not. When we listen back to the tape later, you can hear us walk downstairs. You can hear the garage door opening and our car immediately leave. After that, there was activity. We heard someone speaking out, but it was too soft and therefore indistinguishable. The voice sounded like it was almost pleading with us, but we just could not understand what was being said." It's important to mention that Joey was learning to play bass. His bass guitar and amplifier were stored upstairs with his other belongings. His favorite song was Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. Getting frustrated at not being able to understand the voice on the tape, they all listened closely to hear what was next. Lisa described the defining moment. There was a period of silence on the tape, and then they heard the all too familiar bass line that Joey often practiced. The beginning part to the song. Only it was not the bass part on the recording, it was Joey practicing the bass part. That was the moment that turned the family into believers. Together at once, the family all had the same thought. Joey was trying in multiple ways to prove it was him. Fast forward to when some close friends of the family bought that same house. They loved Joey and had no fear about the events experienced there. Lisa relayed the news from them with excitement. They told us that a TV upstairs in Joey's old room turned itself on and off at odd random intervals. As they investigated how the TV turned on, a few family members heard an unmistakable voice say, "Joey," from within the TV. I still have that tape in storage somewhere and will share it if I can find it. Ooh, have you ever had a call or a message from a ghost? If you have, be sure to comment so in the comment section. The comment section's been quiet lately, so we want to hear that. We've only got a few minutes here, but I think I can fit in a couple of more stories here about calls from beyond and messages from beyond. Let's see here what we have. Yeah. In this collection of mine here. All right. Here's one. A call from the future predicts 911. Okay, we got to read this one. This was in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, 2001. It was 1 month before 9/11. That's the incident in September 11, 2001, when we were attacked. David was working as an alcohol and drug addiction counselor in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. David received a call on his cell phone that went straight to voicemail. He checked the message for a callback number and time, but there was none. David says, I listened to the message. While listening, I got this bad, eerie feeling of dread. It's hard to explain, but I felt sick instantly. There was no voice, but a lot of wind and the sound of crunching metal. In the background, you could hear a crowd of people screaming in terror. He kept receiving these mysterious calls every morning. All of them lasted exactly 3 minutes. The calls were so puzzling that David played the messages to his girlfriend at the time and 3 of his close friends. He didn't tell them what he thought they would hear or feel. He just asked them to listen to the messages he received. Unanimously, everyone heard the same disaster scene, and they were too filled with trepidation. One friend couldn't even bear to listen to the entire message. These frightening calls came from an unknown source, prompted David to get rid of the cell phone and get a new phone with a new carrier. The calls finally stopped, and the mornings were once again uneventful. All of that changed on the morning of September 10, 2001. David received one last call the morning before the towers came down. As usual, the call went right to voicemail. The same exact message was on his new phone. Soon, David would discover that those sounds of metal and screams may have belonged to the terrorist strike the next day on September 11, 2001. After 9/11 occurred, no other calls have been received. David and all of us may never know if they were hearing a disaster yet to come in our time. We do know that it resonated in David and the others who listened to it as an experience they will never be able to forget. True story. And that just gave me the willies. Wow. It's hard to believe it's been be 22 years or 21 years this September when that happened. Okay, what have we next on the list? In the last couple of minutes, I can tell one real quick here. I remember this story about the train crash victim who called his loved ones 35 times. San Fernando Valley, California, 2008. On September 12, 2008 at 4:22 p.m. in California's San Fernando Valley, a commuter train going 83 miles per hour collided with a freight train. There were 225 people aboard. It became known as the Chatsworth Crash. 135 people were injured and 25 died. The engineer was busy texting and failed to yield to a red signal. The train ended up on the other track facing off to a Union Pacific freight train coming from the opposite direction. Charles E. Peck, a 49-year-old customer service agent for Delta Airlines, went to Los Angeles for a job interview at Van Nuys Airport. His goal was to be close to his fiancée, Andrea Katz of Westlake Village. The couple was holding off on marriage until they were living in the same state. Andrea, along with Peck's parents and siblings, heard news of the crash on the radio as she was driving to the train station to pick him up. Naturally, they were quite grief-stricken by the news. It took 12 hours to recover Charles's body from the wreckage. For the long hours prior, however, Peck's cell phone made call after call to his loved ones. It called his son, his brother, his stepmother, his sister, and Andrea. A friend who lived in the same complex as Charles also received a call. In total, 35 calls had been made throughout the course of the night. Whenever they answered these unexplainable calls, they heard static. They tried calling back, but their calls went straight to his voicemail. They thought Charles was trapped and trying to use his cell phone to call for help. The slew of calls were relayed to authorities. The emergency crew attempted to find the phone through its signal. They checked the remains left behind in the first train where the calls were originating from. They found no phone anywhere, despite thoroughly searching the train car and calling the phone number. Rescue crews found Charles's body around midnight, an hour after the calls stopped. Based on his severe injuries, there was no question that he died on contact. Skeptics would say that he must not have died on contact and made the calls before dropping the phone, but Charles was in the very first car. The doctor said he was killed instantly upon being jolted from the car at the time the two trains crashed. Not only was it impossible for him to stay alive for hours making phone calls, but he would not have survived for even one whole minute after the impact. With that theory disproven, all that was left were the strange repeated calls to different family members after he was already dead. The cell phone was never recovered, and no one is sure how the calls were made from a train car that was not occupied and had no living survivors near it. Everyone was questioned and no one made the calls, but someone or something obviously did. Perhaps it was Charles saying goodbye for a final time. Ooh. Well, folks, that is our show. Don't forget to visit myhauntedDolls.com and check out my books out there. My newest book, Dark Awakening, that has original short, scary stories that I wrote. In fact, the first one is more like a novella because it's kind of long. Be sure to check out Dr. Graham's books, including Dating the Dead at datingthedead.com, and his wishing machine at that address that's been scrolling at the bottom of the screen there for most of the show. We will be back next week, all of us here this time, and we will have a little special gathering at Dr. Kelsey's house live, and he's going to attempt a seance and some other communications. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's stories, because next week we may just have some live communication from the other side. So tune in next week, same time, same place. Until then, peace out, happy hauntings, and thank you for watching Abnormal Alabama. Good night.